Welcome to Dynamics of Dialogue, your one-stop shop for peace and love on the airwaves, a safe space for people of color and our allies. Join us every week as we have real dialogue with people going through real life. Your dynamic, your dialogue. Come get some. Welcome to Dynamics of Dialogue. This is your host, Rebel Queen, and I'm here with my good friend, Kadisha Bivens, otherwise known as Soul Scribe the Poet. And today we are talking about finding your peace. And before we get started, first, Kadisha, I want to ask you, what made you choose the name Soul Scribe?
Oh, wow. Soul Scribe. So I was thinking of a stage name. I was a writer, and I noticed that a lot of artists, especially poets, had stage names. And I just thought about what poetry meant to me and why I was a writer. And when I thought about, okay, I'm putting my soul onto paper, I'm being vulnerable, I'm being open, and I'm writing it, and I thought about scribe and then Soul Scribe, and it just kind of was like, that makes sense. I'm writing my soul on paper.
Okay, I like that. That is awesome. But I just noticed you said you was a writer. You're always a writer now.
Yeah, that's true.
That's always in there. That's always in there. It's just a matter of, what wakes it up, and
right.
And are you thinking about writing again, or?
Well, yeah, I'm still writing.
Mm-hmm.
I just I haven't been out as much this year. I've been doing a lot of self-care and handling, real life situations and just focusing on me for a little while. For a while I thought I had to always be out doing something. What is it, busy but not productive. So I said, I'm just gonna, do the things I want to do, not feel obligated to do anything, and get out when I feel like getting out. So yeah, I'm just taking my time with it.
Okay, so let me get to the first question. So today's topic is finding your peace, and I know that we've all been through some things. We've all had difficulties. We've all had struggles. I think we've even all had some kind of trauma, right? Lots of things. I know I was traumatized by sitting on a snail when I was a teenager.
What?
I was traumatized. And I'm still traumatized by sitting on a snail because it leaked and it wouldn't even come out of my shorts. And oh my God, I just freaked out. It just,
what?
Oh my God, it just still freaks me out to this day. So, there's always kinds of things that, but there's some that we do need to heal from, and some that, we kind of just get over on our own.
Uh-huh.
And so what is it that made you, I've observed your journey of healing, and it's been so beautiful to me.
Oh, thank you.
And it's so wonderful to connect with other people who are in that journey. And what is it that brought you to the point that made you realize you needed to heal?
Well, honestly, I've always known I needed to heal. I come from two drug-addicted parents. Both crack cocaine, very heavy drugs, heroin. And I've always battled and dealt with that, but never dealt with that. And the things you see as a child in those circumstances are very damaging. And to think that you can just get over it, it's not possible. You can't just get over it. And your mom being gone for weeks at a time, you can't just get over that.
Oh, my gosh.
No food in the refrigerator, you can't just get over that. Oh,
my gosh. You were See, now this is something I didn't know.
Yeah.
And because I had the same experience. My mom was a crack addict.
Oh, wow.
And crack cocaine.
Wow.
And particularly when you talked about being gone for weeks, that just really resonated with me, because that is a feeling for especially a child.
Yeah.
You feel abandoned and alone. You don't know what to do. You kind of got to just
figure it out. Yeah.
At a young age.
Right. Yeah. Where's mommy? And then you've got to go to aunties. You got to walk, and you're the oldest child, and you're just trying to navigate day to day, and drug dealers coming by looking for your mom because she owes them money. Threatening to shoot up the house if you're here when they get back. It's like all of that was traumatizing, and I will say I never truly I got some counseling when I was in college, but I didn't take it seriously. I was in college. I just was like, well, I'll go talk to someone about my life. It won't hurt. And then after that, I kind of left it alone. I was in a relationship, got married, just suppressed a lot of things from my past because they were so painful. So unfortunately, a lot of my past, I don't remember. Yeah. And it hurts because I can't remember a lot of things. When I hear people talking about their childhood and experiences and, having these photographs when they were a child and things that I don't have. Yeah. I don't have these things because my mom that was not important to her. Right. Having photos, coming to, my racetrack, me, when I'm racing.
The track meets.
Yeah, track meets. And, just all of those things were not really, that wasn't her focus. And, she just wasn't a nurturer. She was, she was strung out. She was sick and dealing with her own demons. So, but I always knew that stuff was, that it bothered me, but I tried to pretend like it didn't. I wanted to be normal.
Like it was life.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to be normal. I didn't want people to know that, my parents didn't love me. I was, and so, I just moved on with life. I said, I'm just not going to be like my mother. That was my main thing. I don't want to be like my parents. I don't want to be like my parents. So I, finally, my grandmother, we moved back to the South. My grandmother took me in. And I promised myself I wouldn't be like them. And I just did everything that I could. I went in the military at 17, went to college, did everything to try to look normal, not look like, the apple that fell, from that same tree. And just, wanted to have a normal life, wanted to have a good life. And so never really dealt with it, just kept going.
And that's the way it typically works. Yeah. It typically works that way, and it takes a lot. Addiction runs in my family. Lots of people, there are just people that are genetically predisposed to becoming addicted to a substance. Yeah. And it took many years. It really wasn't until I started working in mental health that I really understood that this was a disease, and it didn't really mean that my mother didn't love me. Yeah. It's a disease.
That's how it felt, though.
It feels that way. Yes. And that's the story that the message that we get as children, and we carry on into adulthood. And unfortunately, many of us as women, and even men, we go looking for love in all of these different ways and put ourselves in harm's way. Yes. And it becomes so self-destructive. Right. So, and it's something, usually something has to happen to kind of really get us to that place. And for me, it was work stress, lots of things just going on between being a wife, being a mom. My son was having lots of trouble in school, and the type of work stress. It wasn't just the fact that I worked in banking, IT, and operations, so I'm carrying a pager, I'm on call all the time. It was the racism. It was the prejudice. Yes. It was that bullshit.
Right.
That was just okay, and one day I finally just broke.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what, so what, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, because had I not had that experience, I wouldn't be healing today. Yes. I would not be healing today. And so can you talk to me a little bit about what your healing journey looked like? And I'm sure it's transformed from the beginning, from when you started to where you are now. So what did that journey look like for you?
Well, it started, I was married, I got a divorce, went through, a really crazy time in corporate America, and everything just kind of came tumbling down on me, considered suicide, and then got help, but didn't really take it seriously because I was in the middle of divorce, and so I was just mad at everybody. So I didn't really get the help that I needed. And then I believe I started having my journey of healing looked like it was destructive though first, because it was you got to tear everything down,
Oh, yes.
And you're just tearing it all down. You're doing things that you shouldn't do. You're going places you shouldn't go. That doesn't feel good with your soul, but you're doing these things and you're getting down to nothing. You got to get all the way down to nothing. For you to really, really see and understand, I got to do something. Yeah. I got to do something. And so my journey, I would, do little things here and there, but never really took, mental health seriously. I talked about it, never really actively did anything. I know a lot of people like that. They talk about it. Oh, I deal with depression, and I deal with this and I deal with that. I'm like, well, what do you do? Oh, nothing?
They don't have any coping skills yet.
You don't do anything. You don't do any medicine. You don't go to therapy. You don't do anything. But you're telling me
that you're dealing with depression.
And how do you know this?
Well, you know what we typically do is because we're distrustful of the healthcare system,
right?
Because of the racial the parity that
and the medical,
right? And then you know it's we're seen as weak. You know, in our community, we're still fighting the stigma.
Yes.
And so it becomes really difficult. And I think what we tend to do is we call our friends and we want our friends to fix it.
Right.
And we call it venting.
Yes.
Meanwhile, we're like, I slit my wrist last night and I'm, you know, tried to shoot myself. And I'm like, your friends don't have the capacity.
They can't help you.
And not only that, even though they care for you, they could even potentially wound you in that process because they don't understand.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, one of the biggest things for me was religion and how, you know, it played such a part in, well, I won't say, I'll speak on mine, but it was taught. You know, that, just take it to God in prayer. Just go to church. Just pray about it. You'll be all right. You know, nothing was ever really dealt with. You know, if you were in pain or you were sad, just pray about it. There was nothing more. No, don't go to the doctors. You know, don't do this. There was nothing more than just go to church or take it to God, and then that was supposed to fix everything.
Right.
And for me, that didn't fix everything. You know, it was like just putting something on a wound and cover it up, and not really healing it or putting the medicine on there and growing and working to be healthier mentally and physically, just keep going, and you know, it just keeps getting worse. So
what do you do? What do you do? Like in my self-care journey, part of my healing is meditation. I know some guy I was dating some years ago told me that you need to meditate, and I'm like, I just got mad when he told me I need to meditate. I'm like, what you mean I need to meditate? You know?
Right.
I didn't say that, but in my head I'm like, what's wrong with you?
And you don't grow up seeing people in your family do that stuff.
No,
you didn't
don't.
learn a lot of that. Unfortunately, you know, a lot of the healthier strategies or tactics, you know, working out. I didn't really see a lot of people. I didn't see my grandmother working out, my mom working out. I didn't see anyone meditating. I didn't see anyone having crystals around, and you know.
Yep.
You know, it just wasn't taught. Just like a lot of things, like finances are not taught in the Black community. Like mental health is not taught. Like, and because of resources and stresses and I feel like one of the biggest problems in the Black community is mental health. And it's why we constantly are fall behind, you know. But there are a lot of successful, really great, you know, people in our community as well. I'm just saying, I think one of the biggest problems, especially in the poor areas, is mental health. But so what are some of the things that I do? I didn't mean to rant and go on and on, but
this is what we do.
But meditation is definitely a must. You know, I try to get cardio. I have my quiet time. I like to read and write poetry, play with my children. These are all things that really help. Or just music is probably my biggest go-to. And I tell people all the time, I'm a music lover before I'm a poetry lover, which is really weird. They kind of probably just go together, but
it feeds your poetry.
Yeah, music is a biggie for me. So if I can just sit somewhere and listen, I cannot go without music. I cannot. Yeah. Good. I'm working or I'm doing dishes, whatever it is, I gotta have some music to keep me going, and so, you know, it just makes me feel good. You gotta be careful what you listen to. I mean, if you're sad, you're gonna listen to some sad love songs, you know.
Yeah. I get you. I'm the same way about music. It does it for me, and I find that if I'm not listening to music, if I'm not meditating, I can feel it. I get a little tense and cranky.
I get cranky. I get moody, and I was, you know, let me just put some music on. Or let me drink some tea and just be quiet and just breathe, you know, and just because, you know, sometimes I'll have like anxiety and I'll just breathe it through and just try to put on some candles and just try to change my environment and the outlook. So,
and you know what's really helpful too? One thing that I really, really love is sage.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. One of my sorority sisters turned me on to sage and I felt like I'm hooked. And literally you get these sage bundles and you just light it and it is instant. Yeah. It is instantly, I mean, literally the smell is instantly soothing. I even usually keep it like a leaf in my car. Yeah. So like, especially, you know, because I'm a road rage person. Yeah. I worked on that.
Well, we live in Atlanta, so.
Oh my God. Oh my God. It's just a lot sometimes. But I can't tell you how many times that I'm driving and I'm like, oh my God, are you for real? Like,
Right.
really for real? Did you just do that? Like, wow.
People are rude.
Oh my gosh, it's like on another level.
So those were just some things that I do. I like to get out in the city. Sometimes I like to go places with no destination, like, walk around the shops or check out some antiques and things like that. But yeah, just a long time, take myself out to eat, take myself to the movies. There's all kinds of things. I really enjoy my solitude. So it's interesting being in a relationship. He helps me too with a lot of my stress as well. Being in love is a great thing. I think a lot of times people look at it as, oh, you don't necessarily need to be in a relationship. You got this going on, you got that going on. And it's like, yeah, but he's helping me along this journey and I'm helping him. So it's okay as long as we're not damaging each other. And we are, we have our boundaries and, self-love, those things come first.
Absolutely.
And I keep that in mind while I'm in this relationship. And then I even tell him, well, you have to set boundaries and you have to decide what works for you and what doesn't, no matter how much you love someone. And I love him to death, but there's some things that are not going to be tolerated, no matter how much I want to be with you. And there's, and if you don't like it, then we're not meant for each other.
We're not meant for each other. Amen to that. Yeah. So now that you've talked about that, what setting boundaries, because that's a huge one. That's a huge one. So what did you discover about yourself in this process?
Oh, wow. Ooh.
That was the question, huh?
Ooh, there's this one here. God, there are things that I found out about myself. I found out about a lot of trauma that I have been holding on to and things that I've tolerated in relationships or temporary relationships. I've had, unfortunately, I've had intercourse when I didn't want to have intercourse. I've, allowed people to take from me financially when I didn't have. I've allowed, and all of these things were because my self-love and because I wasn't able to set boundaries and speak up for myself. There's just so much trauma, gosh. So that was one thing, sex trauma, there's financial trauma, there's trying to be a nurturer and a healer for damaged people.
Girl, you done said it. Oh, man.
Trying to be this healer and fix people when in the boundaries I let all kinds of things just go because I'm like, they need help. They need me. I can fix them. They that, and but in the long run, it was also a part of me wanting to be loved.
And not only a part of you wanting to be loved, but two things here. I think one, when you're a person who's been through trauma, it's so hard to watch other people suffer.
Yes.
And so I think that's where that feeling like I can help you heal comes from. But then as you get onto this healing journey, you realize I can't heal you.
Right.
That's like an inside job.
Right. Or you're broken now and damaged because you didn't set any boundaries and you say no when you needed to say no.
Yeah.
And so I learned those things about me, and now I'm on the other side of it, and it feels so good. It feels good to be able to say, no, I love you, but no.
Ooh, I've been practicing that. I had to tell somebody that a couple of days ago. They were struggling with some challenges. I'm also a peer specialist. I'm a certified peer specialist here in Georgia. So somebody, one of my friends are having some challenges with his daughter, and he, wants to reach out to me and wants, like, I'm going to call you. I'm in crisis. Sir, what you need is a mental health first responder.
Yes.
This is the information that you can reach out to.
Yes.
I can't, but I need to talk to you. I can't do it right now.
Right.
Because I need me right now.
Right.
Right. And there's a reason, even though I'm a peer specialist, there's a reason why I don't do crisis work. And so if I can't do it for a job and get paid to do it, I certainly am not interested in doing that.
Your personal life.
Right. In my personal life, because it becomes so overwhelming. And I think also many of us who have been through trauma, we become empaths.
Yeah. Yes.
And we absorb the energy.
Yes.
We become so sensitive to other people's energy.
And you can see it.
Yes.
You can feel their pain.
You can feel their pain. I mean, feel it literally. And it's so heavy.
It hurts.
It hurts. And when you're a person that has people coming to you left and right, Hey,
it's a lot.
Yeah, you need to protect your energy.
Yes.
That's a part of your healing.
Yes. And if you don't, you just drag yourself down. And you find yourself getting behind in the things that you need to take care of in life and not making those a priority. Whether it be you going to the gym every day or finding another job or paying certain bills because you let them borrow some money. Little things, and then you go this downward spiral. And so, but yeah, there's a lot of things. But now that I've learned to set boundaries, I've learned to say no. I've learned, I've reflected back on the things that I did and why I did them, and I understand me, but I still forgive me, and I still move forward in knowing that that's not where I'm at anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's not who I am, and I'm not going to allow anyone to take me back there.
No.
To that place. So
no, you don't.
Yeah.
And it's important too, and it's good that you're engaging in this healing now.
Yeah.
While your children are young.
Yeah.
For me, my journey started in 2007. So my son was already a teenager.
Wow.
So there, and it's always been very, very difficult. It's one thing to set boundaries with other people.
Yeah.
And boy, is it really hard when you've had, come through that kind of trauma.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to do that for your children.
Yeah.
It's difficult to see your children suffering, and you have to be like, hey, no.
Yeah.
But then it's only when you go through that healing process do you realize how it can help them.
Yeah.
Setting boundaries for them is healthy for them, and it helps them.
Yeah.
And I think that's another area that, we don't recognize. There's a saying that says mothers love their sons and they raise their daughters.
Okay.
You ever heard that?
No, I've never heard that.
Yeah, mothers, it's old school. Mothers love their sons and raise their daughters. And it comes from the ideology that, we tend to be more lenient on the boys than the girls.
Yeah.
Because we want the girls to be prepared for life. We're preparing our girls for a hard life.
Yeah.
Because we know they're going to, toe some stuff. And then we kind of let the boys slide a little bit.
Yeah.
But we just don't seem to recognize because, again, at least for me, part of my challenge is I saw my brothers go through trauma. So for me, that created a sensitivity that made it very difficult for me to do that. But once I started this healing process, I started to see, wow, I can see the areas where I did not do my son a good service by not setting boundaries in certain areas when he was young.
Right.
Because I was so afraid of seeing him hurt and in pain, but then they need the coping skills.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They do.
Do. So let me ask you, because you mentioned about your poetry. So how does your poetry help you heal?
Oh, wow. My poetry, as I mentioned, my stage name is Soul Scribe, but it also, the meaning of and how I see poetry and how I use poetry is when I'm feeling something, if I'm in pain or if I'm happy or I just, or I've heard a story on the news or something that just touched me emotionally, it helps me to express myself and to get it out because I feel like as long as it's inside, I feel like it's kind of bubbling up inside of me and it's just like gotta come out. It's weird. I'm almost like the Holy Ghost in a way. You know how you hear it in church, but in a way, poetry is like a religion for a lot of people.
It is.
So I start writing, or I feel something, or something, a phrase, or something keeps coming to me, and it won't go away. And I'm like, okay, I gotta. Like the other morning, I was listening to some music, and a phrase kept coming to me, and I was like, wow, okay, I need to sit down and get this off my chest. It helps me because once it's written, I feel so much more peaceful. I feel calm. I feel like there's resolution in a way. It's really weird. I don't know how, even though there's no one else there, it's just you and your paper and your pen or whatever, or your phone or however you write, it's like, okay, I said it. And then when I perform it, I said it again. I spoke it, and I'm speaking it again and again. And it's like, the more I speak it, the less painful it is. Like, when I speak about my mother's drug addiction, the easier it is for me to have phone calls with her.
You just thank you. You really opened up some space for me because I have personally been struggling. I'm a poet as well, and I have personally been struggling with writing while I'm healing. I realized that it can be so heavy.
Oh gosh.
My very first feature, I did a piece called "My Normal Is Not Like Yours," and it was about sexual trauma. And in the middle of this poem, this lady just bust out in tears, and I'm like, "Oh my God, no!" I know. Of course, I kept going, but I'm like, you never know. You never know. But I mean, but it resonated with her, and she approached me and thanked me after. But when you're on stage, you don't know. Right. And I've never. I think probably today is the first time I've ever really publicly. No, I think I said it last season in the show, but I've never really had the conversation about what it was like growing up having a mom be on drugs. And I totally get how she got there. I can't fault her. She got there trying to work. She was working 2 full-time jobs. Wow. And she started taking Black beauties to stay awake.
Wow.
To work 2 full-time jobs to put a down payment on the house because my dad wouldn't help. He helped her with the loan, let her use his VA loan. Yeah. But he wouldn't help her out with the money. Wow. So she's working 2 full-time jobs. Wow. And so it wasn't as though she was just you know what I'm saying? It's really complicated, and but you're right too.
Life stresses.
It's life stresses, but to talk about those things and open up, you never realize. I think other people. It's probably very important that you even spoke about that. Yeah. Because other people that tell me that their parent had a drug addiction, they're like, that's no big deal. I'm like, ooh, you haven't dealt with it yet.
Right.
You don't know.
Right.
You have not dealt with it at all.
Yes. And that's how I used to speak about it, very nonchalantly.
Very nonchalant.
I was like, I don't have parents. That's how I used to say it. But never really, Yeah. So it's easier now to talk to my mom. The more I do those pieces, the more I speak about what I went through. Now my father and I, we're still struggling to communicate and build a relationship, but I feel like it's getting there.
Good. At least it's getting there.
He's in rehab. He called me from rehab one day and wanted to talk and check on me. And I got so upset and I started crying. And because it's the only time you want to call me is when you're in rehab. Yeah. I said, you call me if you want to work on a relationship with me. You call me when you get out of rehab and we'll talk. And that's setting boundaries as well, because I'm not going to have this conversation with you right now. Because when you're out and about and you're by yourself, you don't call me. You want a relationship with me? Call me when you get out of rehab. And it hurt, and I cried, and I was so proud of myself. Because I was not going to sit on that phone and pretend with him that day.
Yes.
And I had been pretending.
God. Yes. Oh, my God. This is girl, you just don't know. You preaching. You are ministering the whole thing.
I get around family and everyone, and I just act like it's all good, and he's there, and we hug, and all right, miss you, see you later.
But that's the way we're programmed, right? Because when we think about those of us who have been through sexual trauma, it's usually not by someone we don't know. Right. It is a person that we know. We end up, I can't even begin to tell you, I would love to find out how many Black women have had to have Thanksgiving dinner with their sexual assailant. Every year. Oh my God. How many of us have had to do that? Right. Go to family events, take rides, do all these different things with this person. Right. And pretend, and even though we tell what happens. Yeah. Family does shush. It gets shoved under the rug. And that's also family secrets. It's family secrets, and a lot of it, boundary setting. Yeah. Because although I love you and I don't want to see you suffer. Right. You hurt this baby. Yeah. We have the tendency to say that stuff is generational. A curse. It's not a curse. It happens because it happens to one, and we don't do anything. We don't address it. And then they go on and do it to someone else, and that person does it to someone else. And that's exactly how it happened for me. Wow. For me, it was 3 generations at least. Wow. And I don't even know how far back before that it goes. But 3 generations that I can know, I can name.
And that's a form of mental illness.
It is.
I think it is.
It is.
They need help.
They need help, and they need to.
And they still need to do their time. Don't get me wrong.
And I'm so glad you said that, because I think somebody like R. Kelly is a perfect example. I did not listen to this 19-minute song he put out, but amidst all of these accusations, which I mean clearly what's going on, he put out this 20-minute song, and one of my friends listened to it, and she said he really sounds like a victim. And what that opened up for me is I believe that in his mind, clearly nobody is born into sexual deviance.
Right.
That is created through experience. You know, clearly this man has experienced something.
Right.
And I think that just from some of the lyrics that she was talking about, it sounds to me like he still sees himself as a victim.
Right.
And this is normal. You know, he doesn't see that he is victimizing women.
Right.
He doesn't see that. He needs help.
Yeah.
He needs help.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why it's important to me. I opened up this space because it's extremely important to me that we begin to have these conversations about healing from these traumas, the sexual trauma, all of this type of stuff, because again, it affects our relationships. Our babies are at stake.
Yeah.
Our babies are at stake.
Families need to talk about this.
We need to start talking about it. And we have to know that you can't just, you know, let it ride because you know, every time you look in your baby's face.
Yeah.
You know, she needs to be equipped in that way. She doesn't need to be equipped by being abrasive and harsh and strong. She needs to be equipped.
Right, mentally and emotionally.
So that she does not ever lose her ability to speak herself.
Yeah.
You know, to speak her truth about what's happening. That is so super important.
Yes, I agree.
So I want to ask you, last question. If you know, your journey to me is just amazing, and you opened up all this great stuff, and I'm so happy to have you in the official DMV Hangout community. Oh man, because you know, this is what it's all about. This is how we all collectively build community. There was a time when I remember growing up in the 70s. You know, I had family members that even though they were drug addicts, they were alcoholics, they were, I mean, people look at me, you would not know how street, but listen, my family, just because one side of my family is like kind of bougie and proper, that's the people I spent the most time around as I got old. Well, I should say when I was younger, I spent the most time around them. The rest of me and my family, we are hood.
Yes.
We hood. So, but you know, we want to have these conversations because, you know, they did encourage me. Yeah. It was that part of the family that said, you do better than me. Yeah. You know, you go further. I can tell you. They would speak life into me. You know, even though they knew, they were very intimately aware of their shortcomings. And even in community, there was that back then, I was born in 1970. Back then, you weren't going to find no, you know, drug dealers trying to give drugs to no little kids. They wouldn't let you do it. I remember being a teenager. After, you know, my mom went through her thing, I remember being a teenager trying to hit up one of the dudes that would stop by the house. Yeah. Yo, what you got? No, I'm not going to get that to you. What you mean? What you mean? You at my house all the time. Yeah. No, I'm not going to get that to you. That's not what you young. You smart. You supposed to go off to college.
Yeah. Back then.
Right. We need community.
Yes. Yes.
We need community and having these open, honest conversations. Yes. Making it safe to have the conversation. Without beating each other over the head. Well, what you mean you ain't do that? You know, like you got it all together. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know,
it's important.
It's important, and so for me, I realize maybe it's a bad thing. I don't know, but you know, I can't. It's really not my job. I think that people that have been through trauma, we are healers. But I don't think it's meant for us to directly heal. I think more like a guidance. Yeah. And so for me, it looks like creating this official DMD community. Yeah. And inviting people in to share. So we have a code in this space that we're going to be community. Yeah. And that's going to be the thing that I'm going to hold everybody to because that's where the value is. Right. Because we're here for encouragement.
Yeah. It's needed. It's needed in today's society. Everyone's all about me. But there are certain circles and people who are working on the community part of it, and community is so important because Lord knows when you find yourself like me now, a single mother, with you know, my child's father not being there and deciding, you know, well, he's not going to be there. And then I'm like, oh my God, I've never done this by myself. And the stress and drama and the trauma from that, oh my gosh. You know, community came and from within the poetry community. me, and people were there, and people I never expected to be there for me. They stepped up, and they started coming around. They started doing little things here and there. And a lot of them weren't there now, but they knew what I needed when I needed it, because that's what community does.
Yes.
And it's not about them, you owing them anything. Mm-hmm. They want to make sure you got the baby clothes. Mm-hmm. They're gonna call and check on you, and then everybody go back to their their own little lives or whatever. It's not that they don't love you or care about you. They just got their own things going on too.
Right.
But they recognize when someone is in pain and needs, the community, and that's what it's about. I think, and you go back to your world and you start taking care of yourself, and when you see someone yelling for help, or you could tell they're crying out, you try to help them if you can, Mm-hmm. So.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So what would you say to a friend to encourage them to step into this journey? Or if they're already in that journey, what would you say to a friend?
In the journey of healing? Mm-hmm. I would say, until you deal with it, it's not going to go away. Yeah. Until you deal with it, it's not going to go away, and you're going to find yourself constantly facing different battles and wondering why. Mm-hmm. And not understanding that because you haven't dealt with your healing, this is why you're going through this. God is going to make you, the universe, God, or whoever you worship or believe, you're going to keep going through the same things until you get it. Mm-hmm. Until you get it.
I believe that, and the thing is, I kind of in my mind, I place God in the universe as one thing. I believe, I think God is greater than the universe. I believe he's probably the creator.
Yeah.
Question whether God is a woman, but that's, that's a whole nother show, right?
Yes.
I mean, all I know is if we're made in his likeness, I only know of one gender that can produce life.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
We made in existence, but we're the only canal which it enters the world.
That's true. That's true.
So, but I do, until I started learning about like Mercury retrograde. When I first read about it, and then I was like,
right.
Wow, that's so true. Yeah. And sure enough, because I had no explanation as to why this person come, and it'll be like after a certain period of time, why does this happen? Right. And just keeps happening. And so I went from asking, why does this keep happening to me, to what is the lesson I'm supposed to learn?
Yes, absolutely.
And,
what is it?
And that's what will advance you. You're absolutely right. Yeah. I did everything I could. I would not deal with it in my mind. Even the very first time I sat down to talk with a psychiatrist, I went over my life. This is pretty traumatic. I went over my life like it was nothing. I was like, and maybe like 3 days later is when I had the breakdown. And he was like, I knew this was going to happen. I could see it. Mm-hmm. I was like, how did you know? He's like, you were talking about this trauma so nonchalant.
Yeah.
Like you went to the grocery store.
Right. I do the same thing. My doctor's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
You got a lot going on here.
Right.
And I'm like, really? Like, yeah, really.
You don't know that it's a lot because it's been so normal for you for so many years. It's your life. You're like, I've been doing this forever. I've been doing this for 47 years. I'm a pro.
This is not okay. It's not normal.
It's not okay. And then the other challenge for me was to get over the embarrassment of thinking, oh my God, you mean my whole life I have thought that it was supposed to be like that, and it's really not?
Right.
Like, you mean this ain't normal?
Right.
Oh man, that was like, oh wow.
And everybody wants to be normal.
Everybody wants to be normal, but I shouldn't say normal because it's so relative. But what's healthy,
what's healthy,
and what's not healthy,
right? So you're gonna keep going through those things, and it's gonna keep getting darker, and it's gonna keep looking. It's gonna look different each time, though. Until you really, really face yourself and really start doing things consistently. We say that because when you think you're dealing with it by just, I'm gonna just go to church this Sunday and I feel better now, I'm good, and then you go on and then something else happens, you're like, well, I ain't been back to church in like 6 months because I felt good. I thought I had dealt with whatever it was.
Right.
But consistency.
Right. Consistency
is so important when you're dealing with that. You got to remind yourself, because we deal with so many different demons and stresses, and those things are consistent. And so if you're not finding a way to deal with them, to cope, to just make it out of those situations, you can find yourself back down in the dumps going through the same things over and over again. So I just say find some consistent things that help you with healing, because if you don't, really address your hang-ups, your faults, how you might be damaging yourself and other people, those things are not going to go away. And
they don't.
And we all have to be accountable.
We do.
For our actions, for what we do to ourselves and to others.
And to other people. That's the other part about healing, is recognizing that, I know for me, anger.
That used to be me.
I can, that anger, and Yeah, anger
was a big one for me. I found myself, getting in fights with exes and police having to be called, and just, I was always like payback, or you're going to get it, or, I was just stubborn, and it had to be my way, and I had to make it clear that you weren't going to make me look stupid and make me feel bad. And instead of walking away.
For me, it wasn't even that. For me, it's more like a trigger. It's because I've been through physical abuse. Sexual abuse and verbal abuse. The verbal abuse,
you want to protect yourself.
You want to protect yourself.
Yes.
And so there's still two things when I feel like I'm being physically threatened, and that's a problem because there's a lot of guys that get to, I dated this one guy, big dude. He was 6'2", 280.
Wow.
And he said something to me that I just didn't really like. He was going on a trip with a friend that I ain't know nothing about. You living in my house. You my man living in my house.
Right.
And you going on this trip with this person I don't know nothing about.
Oh, no.
For the weekend.
Oh, no.
I couldn't even get past the disrespect. I don't know to this day if he was cheating. All I know is that disrespect.
That level of disrespect. No. We're not going to have that.
Oh, no. We got into an argument, and he starts yelling, and he, because he's a man, he want to post up on me.
Yeah.
Man, I got up on the top of my bed. I had nothing but 5'1". I got up on my bed after he posted up on me, and my voice dropped like 5 octaves. And he looked at me when I was done. I let him have it. And when I was done, he looked at me and said, "You crazy?" And walked out the room. I was like, "You better remember my ass crazy. Lift your hand. Your life at risk."
Right. Yeah, I had a huge problem with anger.
Oh my God.
But a lot of it came from the trauma and things that I have been through.
It's the things that you've been through, and it's so much that it is that it's not even that you're an angry person,
right?
But you are hell bent on those things never happening again.
Yes.
You don't ever. And before it happens to me, oh, I got plans for you. I mean,
that's a dangerous place to be.
It's a dangerous place to be. So I had to realize, and I'm like, my God, I had to realize I got it this far, and I don't have any record, and people don't ever think, because you don't think that when you meet me.
No.
I'm like, so
people don't think that when they see me.
It's your true self. You're being your true self, and a lot of that anger, it isn't even you. It's that resistance. It's fear. All of these things. And I'm so super glad we had this conversation. And before we wrap this up, I'm going to ask you if you would drop me some word. You got a piece that you could do?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, because you talked about this healing and the stuff you do.
I could do some poetry for you, some spoken word.
All right, y'all. Look, I'm excited. Wait. Okay,
I have a poem. This piece is called Live a Dream.
Okay, wait, I'm sorry. I got to compose myself. I wanted to be at your feature and I couldn't come, so I'm so excited.
Fine. Okay. You'll have another chance.
Yes.
I come from a generation of black kids whose mamas smoke crack to relax. A whole bunch of Toya Carters and Keisha Coles who yearned for the embrace of their mother's hold were told that we would never amount to anything. That the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. That our parents' drug addictions would determine our destiny. But see, I didn't have to accept society's expectations of me. It was up to me to believe that dreams do indeed come true, like Whitney's vocals, even when she's blue. Don't forget to love you. To put your hopes and dreams on top like Jay did Beyonce. I say this to inspire.
I am so glad to have had you today. I'm so grateful that you came
Thank you.
to have this conversation with me. It's like
This
food
is
for
good.
my soul.
Yeah, this is good for me too. I didn't expect it. I didn't know what to expect. So
really,
I didn't have any expectations. You know, a lot of times, I think I like that. Not trying to have expectations or force the direction of things. I like organic, connections and chemistry.
Especially on 11/11. It's the day just to let the universe manifest what it will.
Yeah.
When you know that you go into it with an intention.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love to go into things with an intention and see what manifests because I know my mind takes me all different kind of ways.
Definitely.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it. And I want to come back whenever you want me.
Yay. I'm excited about that. I'm very excited about that. Once again, I hope that you all have enjoyed this episode. I'm going to encourage you to get some help. If you know that you've had some traumatic experiences, I'm please encouraging you to seek help, talk to somebody. Okay? Check us out next week, 3 o'clock. Every week it's official DFD. Hey, go to the Android store, the Apple Play Store, download the app Mighty Network, search for the official DFD Hangout. See you next week. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed our show. Tune in every Sunday at 3 p.m. at officialdfd.com. Follow us on social media at officialdfd. Your dynamic, your dialogue. Come get some.